public concerns. People are already expressing the high energy costs, including the high electric bills, that these high electrical rates, the high gasoline prices, and we have people in our community who are trying to conserve water, and they certainly should not be penalized with this astronomical proposed fee. So maybe if the board could just give some brief consideration tonight as to whether or not this matter should appear on the next agenda, or whether it should appear discussed in a work session, or whether the matter should be referred to the committee. So I think that would be the best thing we could decide tonight, so that we just resurface again at the next meeting, because this is getting a lot of public attention. So I just want to say that, Mr. Mayor, however the board want to proceed with my comments, I would greatly appreciate it.
Other board members have any reaction to that? He's not asking for a motion, he just asked for consideration to be put to the committee. Am I right, Roy?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I don't think that's an unreasonable request at all, given the scope of the issue itself.
And so would the members of the board, would it be the pleasure for them to say, take it up in the infrastructure committee?
Mr. Mayor, I'm getting a read on this end, and I'm going to offer that in the form of a motion that the matter dealing with the proposed increase for water and sewer rates, and the matter regarding the increase for the proposed deposits for electrical rates be referred to the committee on streets, drainage, and ditches, being the committee is chaired by Alderman McLaurin, consisting of Alderman Compton Perkins.
Could I get you to do one thing, Mr. Perkins?
Yes, sir.
Let us get the official approval of the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Good. And then
Yes, sir.
say that we could revert back to this with your permission.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Would that work?
Yes, sir.
Why don't we move with those comments in regard to the movement of the board business up to the first thing after the approval of the minutes. And at this time, do we have an approval of the official agenda with that movement?
Mayor, just a point of clarification, if I may. Are we going to discuss the water and sewer deposits then, or are we going to include that in the committee discussion as well?
Well, we would put the water and sewage, we're just talking about water rate, sewer rate increases.
I'm talking about F number 2, which is...
I know which one you're talking about. There's a request to increase the water and sewage deposits. I don't think that would have anything to do with the rates.
Right, I just didn't know if that was going to be included as well in that committee.
Mr. Mayor, we can include, and I'm going to include in the motion, we have a report out by the first meeting in September. That would be pleasing.
And so on, we just wait till we get to public services,
That'd be fine, Mr.
and
Mayor.
then we can include both of those, and we have something on the agenda there that we can include it with.
Yes, sir, that's fine.
Will that work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We have do I hear a motion to approve the official agenda with the changes?
So moved.
Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Brings down comments by the mayor.
Excuse me, we moved Randy.
Right.
Randy, we have moved you on the agenda up to this spot.
Okay, I thought it was behind there. That's fine. We're now going to take up the first item on board business is a consideration of approval of the award resolution pertaining to the $2 million electric system bond series. Mr. Wall.
Y'all are getting the results of the bids. And you will note as you get them, the bottom line in this case is not really the bottom line. It's the line in the first page, the last number filled in there, which is the third paragraph from the bottom. You will see that the bid from Morgan Keegan is the, we checked these bids, by the way, and the calculations are all correct out to 4 decimal places. And the lowest interest rate bid, in this case, the highest and best bid, is the Morgan Keegan bid for 4.077653, which is an extremely good bid. Very competitive bids, otherwise they range from 4.12 to 4.17, which are all pretty tightly grouped. So you got very competitive bids, and you got a good number for revenue bond issue with 4 bids. very good bid. The publication's properly made. So what's on the agenda for tonight is the approval of what we generally call the award resolution. Do y'all have the award resolution?
We do.
Okay. What that does is the resolution adjudicates that publication was properly made, which it was. And we have Marquis has approved the publication. That the 4 bids were received, that has placed award the section awarding bonds to the highest and best bidder, in this case, Morgan Keegan. And what that will do then, that will set us in line to the validation proceeding is going on as we speak. And Rodney, I think that's set for the 12th or August 14th. And so shortly after that, probably a week after that, week or 10 days after that, we can have bonds for it. And you'll have the money. So the only thing that's in order for tonight then is for the
Approval of the awards. Do we have a motion? Do we have any questions, first of all?
Mr. Mayor and Board, I would move adoption of the resolution directing the sale and award of electric system revenue bond series 2006 of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, dated August 1st, 2006, in the principal amount of $2 million. And as Mr. Wall has indicated, that the highest and best bid, which of course in this case for bonds, the lowest of the bids is that submitted by Morgan Keegan Company of Memphis, Tennessee, an interest rate of 4.077653.
Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Do we have any further discussion? If not, all those in favor of the resolution say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
congratulations over the
Thank you. That was 5-2, I believe.
Yes, sir.
We're down to comments by the mayor of the Board of Aldermen. I hope that many of you that read the weekend paper saw the proposal downtown development of the Borden plant. I thought that really looked good. It's something that Starkville, another issue in helping to make Starkville look like a great city. We hope that they follow through with those particular commitments in those developments. Approval of the minutes for the City of Starkville Board of Aldermen regular recessed meeting of July the 18th. Did all of you have an opportunity to read that and offer corrections?
Tammy, Mr. Mayor and Board, I would just note that the title of the minutes talk about the minutes of the regular meeting of the Mayor and Board of Aldermen, July 18, 2006. Now, of course, should be the recess meeting.
Mayor, I move approval of the recess minutes of July 18, 2006 with Alderman McLaurin's correction.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Any other corrections? Those all in favor of approval of the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Brings us down to citizen comments, not the one that are making public appearances, but citizens of the audience that would like to have a comment. Do you have a comment tonight, Alan?
Good evening to the Mayor and Board of Aldermen. Citizens have some concerns and we need some direction on some things. Like we were hearing that the Vice Mayor is running for judge, and we just need some clarification. Where that may be field or not. We do not want to have a one-sided situation. People also, we badly need that electric department. Hope that we get it. Like today, you have 3 lines, you have and I definitely would not want to be sick again. And also, when it comes down to the police department as well, it's hot, and people just like a little room where that we can breathe. Those are consideration of the citizens.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public would like to make a comment this time? Yes.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Aldermen. I just wanted to reiterate.
State your name.
I'm sorry, David Jackson. I've spoken in the last couple of meetings about the burn ban that's been tossed around at the last few meetings, and I guess I've asked myself question after question. I don't understand exactly where, as a group, you are headed as far as trying to stop burning in the city altogether, or whether you're trying to make changes or resolutions. But I just want you to consider the historical city limits that to allow to burn or to have permits has been enforced to be able to do for a number of years. And I don't know, from what I understand, that all this was affected by just a handful of people. And I want you to realize the economic effect that it'll have on the entire citizens in the city, not taking into effect the few that have complained. I don't know, I haven't heard one person come up here that was for a burn ban yet in the last 3 meetings. Maybe I will tonight. But, and I've yet to speak to anybody my side of town or any part of Starkville that is for burning, for banning burning in citywide, period. So I just want you to consider the other citizens in the city and not just base your opinion on a few that have had a problem in the past. And there again, reiterating that I feel that the fire department has done a great job in the past, and I think they can do an excellent job in the future of handling and strategically allowing or disallowing the fire burn permits. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak this time? Yes, sir.
My name is Tommy Coleman. I live on Maple Drive in Green Oaks. And Mr. Jackson was saying about the burn, being able to burn. My lot is 460 feet deep and 100 feet wide. I have a lot of trees on the lot. And the neighbor had the same thing, and we do need to be able to burn at least a couple times a year to keep that cleaned up and brushes that's fallen over a period of time, clean it up and burn it at least twice a year. And I'd like for you to leave it that way if all possible.
Anyone else?
Do I need to come up there?
Please, sir, if you would.
I don't mind. Just got a couple of things I need to discuss with the board. I appreciate your comment. You get me as soon as I get in here.
Mr. Ashton, could you state your name, please?
About the one way in Main Street, I came to y'all to talk to you about it. And it just, in my opinion, I know what you're done it for, but in my opinion, it's wrong. Supposing the people live over there, it affected black people. I hate to say that, because I try to get away from the color deal, but that's happening. Another thing, you need to look into it, because at Griffin down there got a little larger, more tenants, and you point them around Ware Hill, Ames Street, 2 cars can't pass on that street. You're one way on the street now. If you notice when they're delivering to the plaza, alcohol and beverages up there, you can get through going on Corner Street, but you got it 2 ways. Cars have to wait there. But Main Street is wilder than that. So I come to you and just telling you to look into it and see what damage are you doing. We've come a long way. I hate to go back and say, put this least if you know which one way or the other. Another thing, I wish you would look in the black community and look and see, I rode through some of them this morning. There's a lot of debris out on the streets, especially over on Henderson Street where you got that dumpster. And it's not right at the dumpsters down on the side. I realize that I don't know who put it out, but you need to check into that. That doesn't look right. And I found a lot of things in the black community that need to be addressed. And I'll be back with you later and talk about it. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to public appearances. And the first person we have tonight on public appearance is Stan Sheridan. Stan, are you here? Yeah, there you are. Starkville Recycling. I believe your reference is curbside pickup and drop off, is that correct?
Right. Give y'all some more stuff here, so. I'm Stan Sheridan with Starkville Recycling. These brochures I'm handing out were provided through a grant for DEQ studying about recycling throughout our city. Tells the 4 drop-off sites that we have that were put up by the city. The canisters at these drop-off sites were by a grant given to you in 2002 for DEQ of $10,000. They've been taken out of service because we've had to close down 2 different sites. We still have 2 sites available that aren't working, but we have 2 sites that have been closed down, and I've numerously emailed y'all and talked with different ones of you trying to get sites put back in to replace those sites. We've lost half of the amount of material that the residents are dropping off. Every day we get calls, people asking about, why are these sites being pulled out, why they're not being replaced. We only have sites now on the south side of town, and we need something on the north side of town to help out those residents that way. And I'd like y'all to try to find the replacement sites for those 2 if you could.
When were those sites pulled out?
In April,
Of this year?
yes.
Were they not being used?
No, sir, one of them was at the fire station, one I believe on Entrance Street. Where they're putting in a new park, and they said they needed that area for parking there. And we pulled that one out, and the other one was on Whitfield Street, where that property was given to the Parks and Recs, they planted trees on it. But since then, we haven't had a replacement or any kind of recourse for it. But we still have our bins, our own self at 211cc Clark, but it makes it inconvenient for the people recycling to have to drive that far. A lot of the elderly people and stuff, we have more of the older crowd recycling than we do the younger crowd right now. And it sort of hampers them having to drive all the way across town. And I think for their benefit as well, it'd be good to have something in the neighborhoods that need these.
These were picked up in April.
Yes,
Containers.
yes,
These containers, did you pick them up yourself?
yes, right. These containers belong to you, to the city.
Who authorized you to pick
Doug
them up?
Devlin did.
Who?
Doug Devlin. He emailed me to remove. Because the first one was removed because y'all give the property they were on Whitfield Street to the Parks and Recs Department. They got a grant to plant trees in that area to make a park out of it. So we removed those, we were asked to remove those, and we did. And then the second request came about 2 weeks later on Fire Station 1, where they're putting that park there. And we went and removed those. And I'm not asking to put them back in the same place, I'm asking for,
Different sites.
find some different sites for it. If y'all may have a front yard you want to set in, it doesn't matter. I don't know what the city has property where it at, but if we have some places that are available that can work, that's what, we need to try to find something to get this going. These are provided through a grant, and we need the grant states that they had to be kept in work, working, and they're not doing that right now.
I've had some constituents in my ward call, voicing their concerns over the lack of the canister and all in Ward 4, the one that's next to the fire station. They were confused. They weren't sure if we were just no longer recycling in town or if they just been moved completely.
Right. And the Heritage Museum may be a location that could be put in. I don't know how the property runs in that area, but I did hear the last meeting that y'all own that property. And that may be one site that we could consider looking for something if it could work out there.
It certainly would be more visible than
Yes.
some other sites.
And, I don't know what type of property y'all have on further way up, Jackson Street or somewhere like that. I don't know what you have back that way. But you have Plantation Homes, which they have their monthly curbside. I mean, it would be real handy for them. There's a lot of people back that way that recycle this way.
Any
Mr.
questions
Mayor?
from the board?
Just to let you know, Ms. Boyd has been looking for places to put those containers. One of the areas we're looking at is, she's cleaned off an area down in the sanitation department down the hill there, and that's one of the areas that we're looking at to put them. We're still looking for other places, but that's one of the areas that we're looking at.
That's kind of a hard
It
place
hasn't
for a
been
lot of
forgotten,
people
is
in
my
the public
point.
to find, though, is down the hill and down there, they feel kind of intimidated going down with all those trucks and cyclone fence and everything. Unless you can get closer to, the water tower or closer to it.
I think we could probably direct the public, but either way, I mean, it hasn't been forgotten. We're still looking at it.
Okay.
It has to be convenient for these people. It also has to be, a lot of this drop-off goes in early morning hours and late evening hours. And this needs to be a place that's safe and, for people. You don't want to get in a place that would be, they wouldn't feel safe in. It needs to be a place that would be well lighted and that the people would feel safe getting out of the cars, to do this stuff. Because they may be the only person, they're sitting there. And you get out of your car and you get your car door open, it needs to be in a safe environment there. And I don't know that down at where she's talking about would be, it would probably be safe, but people may not feel that safe about it.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think we need to sit here and decide that tonight. We have a committee, the trash removal committee, and we recognize that we can discuss this matter, come up with recommendations to sites, and I'll certainly give deference to whatever recommendation they may have.
And I would anticipate that the so-called trash committee will meet early next week to take up the agenda items that have been assigned to that particular committee.
And Mr. Mayor, I'd like to voice my concern with that, and I hope that we do find a place and soon, because I use regularly the site that was at Lampkin and Russell Street, and as he said, when I knew anything, it was gone, and I'm not driving 2 or 3 miles to take my
Recycle, yeah.
stuff to be recycled, and I would like for it to be in an area where I feel safe removing all these items from my vehicle.
Do you feel like that there may be a strong participation on Long Street and anywhere?
I can't see anywhere on Long Street to put it. Long Street is
Ms.
so
Rule,
congested.
preparatory to this committee meeting, if you could spend some time this week while some of us are out of town, perhaps coming up with possible locations for recycling containers or dumpsters, canisters, as he called them, that might give access to all those segments of town, and then we'll have that information for the committee meeting.
Be happy to do that.
Thank you.
Well, the next thing I'd like to discuss is on the curbside that's been proposed. The city at this time deposits 22,000 plus tons per year to go to Triangle Solid Waste Authority. This is costing you at $23.50 a ton, $517,000 or more per year just for your trucks to dump it out, not what it costs to pick it up and that type of stuff, transportation. If you can see a way to make this curbside working, I'd like to, I think we can go with 25% volume of recycling. It would take a while to work it up to that, but I feel like we can recycle 25%. What that's going to do is save you in your tipping fee alone of $130,000 just by recycling 25%. And Ms. McLaurin, your wife said that y'all are recycling about 60%, which is real good. But if we can just make a goal of 25%, you know, that's gonna be a big savings to go towards the cost of curbside. The Mississippi Multimedia Waste Reduction Act of 1990 requires us to have a goal recycling plan in the cities and municipalities, universities and all, of 25%. I don't know that we have a plan or a goal in sight, but I would like for us to set one up for it. Right now, with my calculations, going through our facility, we feel like we're recycling about 5%. That's between what the residents drop off and what the businesses we're collecting from. And talking with Louis Murillo at DEQ, we've got till October the 1st and April the 1st, the deadline of applying for grants. And there's monies that are available. It fluctuates back and forth according to what you can promise to do and that type of stuff. But just like in 2002, we've got a $10,000 grant for these canisters. Well, there's possibilities we can get grants to start this recycling on curbside. You know, so there's money that we can get to help offset the cost of it. Plus what we're going to be saving will, just in 1 year alone, $130,000 typically, it's going to just keep building up more and more if y'all can see ways to investigate it and make it go with that.
Mr. Chairman, would you be willing to provide some of that material, especially about the grant application process, perhaps to Mr. Mills, who's chairman of the committee that's going to be looking into that?
Yeah, you can pull it up on the website of Mississippi DEQ also.
Mr. Mills, would you share that with the other members? I wasn't aware we had the chairman of the committee, but if you share that.
We're gonna meet next week, by the next board meeting, we'd like to have just in place where we're gonna put these.
Sure. That's what I thought. Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mills. Yes, sir. Thank you.
You know, and I appreciate y'all's support, and I really do. You know, when I come to y'all back in March of 2003, it was Mr. Perkins, Mr. McLaurin, and Mr. Davis. And I come before y'all telling y'all that I wanted to put in this facility, and what my plans were. And I remember specifically, Mr. McLaurin, you sitting back and asking me, you said, well, what are you expecting from us? And I told you I just wanted your support and encouragement to recycle. That it was going to be costing anything, but I wanted to get this town recycling and try to get it to be the most recycled city in the state. And we've got the support of the residents, but the residents need y'all's support to make all this work out. Thank you.
Our next public appearance is Ms. Sherry Borland.
I thank you for letting me be put on the agenda tonight, Mayor. My concern is in particular, the area on Yates Street, between Yates Street and Louisville Street. The parking, there's parking allowed there. And I've walked recently by there, and I never saw for the first time a car that didn't have to pull out on the other side of the lane or the line in the middle to pass there. They always pull out. There's a car or a large, I think a Tundra, parked at 311 Greensboro. And my concern is that I almost wrecked week before last because of it. A lady wanted to pull out, crossed it, almost hit me. And that's the reason I decided to come to the board. I've heard many, many complaints from just in my business. But I'd like to state my particular concern is right there in that area. I drive down probably 5-6 times myself a day between Starkville Cafe and the back of Green Oak Superette. And from there on, I don't see a problem, except when school starts, there's some backup of traffic getting into the school down there. But I would like for y'all to consider tonight making a motion to put that a no parking on that side of the street, because I feel like it's dangerous, in particular on the Raymond Street coming out there on Greensboro. The school buses, when school's going on, have to pull out way out to get out there, and it backs up traffic. So I appreciate it if y'all make a motion, or someone would make a motion to that effect.
Does the board have questions or discussion on this issue?
Have you talked to this individual in the truck?
I hope the problem has been resolved. Ms. Moreland's correct, that's a problematic area of Greensboro. Can I come up and share? As long as we're gonna talk about it, might as well discuss it all, because she's exactly right, that what Ms. Moreland's saying is probably one problem of many from that area. MDOT made a traffic count study there. They do that on city streets. East Greensboro, as best I can remember, and I think the last time I looked was the 2003 figures. East Greensboro from Whitfield and Greensboro to Meigs Avenue has 10,000 cars a day on that street by the Highway Department traffic count. That's actually more traffic than is on Highway 389. It's compounded by a number of other issues such as the school traffic, as Moreland pointed out. Now we have the issue that Mr. Ashford was bringing up, which is court traffic, which has to exit on Greensboro. And certainly you have a funeral home there that stops traffic on occasions for funerals, as well as the Methodist Church has functions at night and sometimes on Sunday during the day. It's a really condensed area. The particular part of the street that Ms. Moreland's talking about was allowed, it always has been legal parking, but historically our traffic pattern is so much more in volume now that it's time that we did revisit that, I think. And one of the things that I think we probably need to talk about is not just East Greensboro, but the entire Greensboro corridor and Whitfield as well. There are a number of areas there that are difficult to get out on. For instance, you've got Raymond Street, and that's problematic because of buses there. You've also got Yates Street. The average speed in around the Scale Street area is somewhere around 38, 39 miles an hour, which if you're trying to get off the scales on a Whitfield, that can be a problem. So what you've got is a major traffic thoroughfare through the heart of the city and through a residential area. So Sumner, or Alderman Davis and I have been working the last few weeks on solutions that might help with the whole scenario as far as traffic calming devices or safety devices. And we're still researching that. We have talked with the resident there that Ms. Moreland's referring to, and I think that that won't be problematic anymore. He realizes that Alderman Davis is working hard to try and come up with a solution that will help the entire street. I think there are concerns from a number of residents on that street about the entire issue. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Ms. Moreland, does that satisfy you in terms of?
Yes, I talked to Mr. Davis, and he did not inform me when I talked to him that there was going to be any action on the gentleman's part not to park there. I probably wouldn't have come tonight, sir.
And I appreciate that, and I've just been running crazy trying to get in touch with him and everything post your conversation, and I apologize for not
But
getting in
to answer
touch
your
with
question, what we do is there's some other issues there, like speed limit that we need to look at. It's 30 miles an hour. It's probably too fast through there. I'd like to continue to work with you for the next few weeks if we could, and maybe talk with Mr. Webb about, what we need to do to finalize to solve the whole area's issue from one end to the other. And it may include some other things that we need to do, and we can do it all at one time, and I think we need to move on it fairly rapidly. And I've also discussed with Starkville Public Schools, Dr. Birchfield, about rerouting some of the drop-off traffic in Armstrong Middle School, which should help with some of that. But I think some of this will reach a fruition here in the next few weeks if y'all give us a little time to work on it.
Just one last comment. Ms. Moreland, you satisfied with that report?
Yes, if the gentleman starts, it's my concern is there's not room to park there. If someone starts parking there routinely again, I would like to be taking action on it because it's dangerous.
Did you have something, Mr. Davis, you want to say?
I think we got it worked out,
Okay.
and you're 100% correct. If we start having problems, we'll take the appropriate action. And actually, I've got, based on conversation with the chief, I've got a motion that the mayor will allow now to do certain things to start addressing this problem now and work towards more
solutions as we go forward over the next 2 weeks, month or so. So, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
You may.
I'll offer one thing, and based on comments that we've heard here and from Mr. Ashford, when we talked about the situation on Main Street in the one-way, one of my concerns was traffic coming back up around the Methodist Church through what has to be described as a somewhat awkward intersection with Yates, Greensboro Street, and I believe Cushman Street comes up a hill as well right through there.
And Westland, it's actually 5 word.
Like I said, a somewhat awkward intersection. And what I would like to see us take is to place stop signs on Greensboro Street at that point by the funeral home for those who aren't familiar with the intersection, to allow for, number one, people coming in off these side streets to be able to get out without having to pull all the way out in traffic and around cars that are parked up around the curve around the Methodist Church funeral home area, with the hope that that would help slow traffic down as it comes down the so-called 300 block of Greensboro Street back towards Raymond and Louisville Street through that section we're talking about. Also, as Chief mentioned, there's, depending on which way you go on Greensboro Street through that section, there are different speed limit signs, some of which deal with the schools, some of which are just posted all the time. And to address that, I would propose, and I've talked with Chief Lindley, just going 20 miles per hour through that particular section of Greensboro Street from the Whitfield intersection, past the Greensboro Center, all the way to the funeral home there. That section, just make it 20 miles per hour so that we can, try to, and I believe one sign says 25 on one end, one sign says 30 somewhere else. I mean, just go 20 miles per hour through there to help reduce that speed. Another thing, to address the Whitfield Street, Scale Street intersection, which as you drive through there, you might not ever go down Scale Street, but sometimes if you're trying to pull out, it's kind of hard to get through there. Place a stop sign on Scale Street as well to help with that intersection, and also to slow traffic on Whitfield as it comes into the Greensboro Street corridor there. One other thing that has been mentioned as far as Greensboro Street traffic is also West Main Long Street and its impact on Greensboro Street. And what I'd like to ask us to do is to actually do an evaluation of the intersection of West Main and Long Street to see if traffic control is needed at that intersection based upon school traffic, school buses that come up through there, and come back with a report middle of September on that. That'll give school traffic the time to see what the patterns are doing and everything else for possible action. Not saying we're going to take action, but possible action at that intersection at that time.
And gentlemen, let me point of information. You said, of course, that's not going to war, but how constituents come through. You said the intersection of West Main and Long.
Yes, sir.
Is that, if you're coming on 182 right past Mississippi Funeral Service at the next intersection?
Yes, sir.
You said traffic control. What type of traffic?
Stop sign.
I guess we can get a report.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying not necessarily that we're going to do it, but we look at the impacts of traffic, and particularly if the school is going to adjust their traffic patterns for pickup and drop off. And Ms. Self, that's in your ward. Do you have an objection to looking at that?
Now, we've had, Mr. Mayor, recognizing the chair, we've had some dialogue on this, and I was waiting till you finish to say, okay, where's my name coming up in
Yes,
this?
ma'am.
Because we've had some discussion, and I believe some of these ideas were mine.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So, any further meetings with you and Chief Lindley, I would like to be in on
Yes,
them.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No problem. But I make those in the form of a motion, those recommendations in the form of a motion.
Did everybody understand the motion?
I can run through it in a brief summary.
If you would.
Stop signs on Greensboro Street at the confluence of Yates, Cushman, and West Lampkin. Intersections on Whitfield Street and Scale Street. Standard 20-mile-per-hour speed limit from the aforementioned Yates, Cushman, West Lampkin, Greensboro Street intersection to the Whitfield Street, Greensboro Street intersection, that stretch 20 miles per hour. And then for us to get a report back on the traffic situation at the West Main, Long Street intersection due our second meeting in September.
Do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Second.
She did.
I can second
Okay.
it.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to be recognized for an amendment to the motion.
Go ahead.
And the amendment that I offer is that we accommodate Ms. Moreland's request by also in that motion putting no parking signs on Greensboro Street on the south side of the street from Yates down to the Greensboro intersection with Louisville Street. Offer this as a motion.
So no parking where now?
No parking signs, just like Ms. Moreland requested. The amendment is no parking signs on the south side of the street from Greensboro's intersection with Yates all the way down to Greensboro's intersection with Louisville. That's per Ms. Moreland's request. That's an amendment. I haven't gotten a second, but that's the amendment to the motion.
And so we're gonna allow parking on the north side of the street there?
That's the amendment.
Okay.
I'm here. I'm listening. Is that acceptable to your motion?
Well, I think that we have her particular issue solved for now, and as Ms. Self just said, if we went no parking there, what prevents him from just going across the north side of the street and parking on that side of the street where it would still be allowed?
Do we have a second for that amendment?
I'll second it.
We have an amendment with a second to the motion. Any further discussion?
Do you have a recommendation on it?
You know, like I said, I thought we, based on conversations that have been had with the individual, I thought it was solved, that I think that may be a bit drastic, and if we need to come back and revisit it based on, doing that again, I have no problem with that. I just think we ought to let my motion run its course and see if we can handle it in that way. But if the board chooses to do it, I guess I can live with that.
Okay. Are we clear? Sumner summarized his motion, and Roy made an amendment that we put no parking on the south side of Greensboro. Is that right?
Yes, sir.
From the point of Yates and down to Louisville Street, that one short section. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, of course, I certainly give deference to what the Vice Mayor has to say by way of his motion to amend. Might want to see if this other would work first, and always make it no parking, any meeting. And if the resident is willing to remove his car, vehicle from the street, that ought to solve the thing.
I don't see what the no parking has got to do with this. It really has no bearing on what the other side of the motion is. It's the fact that it's created problems that a no parking sign installed on Greensboro Street would guarantee us we would not have the calls that we've had in the last 2 months about just one vehicle parking on Greensboro Street. I don't see any problem that could create with the people of that residence. I live on Sycamore Street, and it would not bother me if we had no parking all the way down Sycamore Street as a resident. But I have had at least 50 calls about this one vehicle parking on Greensboro Street, and I think it's time that we do something about it.
Well, let's vote on this issue. We have a motion with an amendment, and we'll first vote on the motion with the amendment. We first vote on the amendment first to the motion. All of you know what that is. That's putting no parking on the south side of Greensboro from Louisville Street to Yates. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
I believe that we can show hands. All those in favor of the amendment, raise your hand. All those opposed? Now, yes.
May I ask one more thing? If we're gonna put these stop signs in these intersections, I think it would be a wise decision to put rumble strips, similar to the ones in front of And this is gonna be something that's gonna be new, and I think we need to put the stop bars there to let people, obviously see that these stop signs are going in, because the amount of cars that are on that street, I think will help, in that regard.
But that can be used as a safety discretion at the.
Yes, sir, I was just
also
saying, I
police
think that'd be a
stand.
good
All right.
idea, because it's two intersections in there. It's
We're back to the regular motion.
Let's continue our comment.
Okay.
Of course, by way of comment, Alderman Davis and myself, Alderwoman Self, have proposed what they consider a possible solution dealing with slowing down traffic on the streets in question, and also discussion with the resident that parks the vehicle, that he not park the vehicle. Of course, should the vehicle continue to be parked, then Vice Mayor, a motion certainly at a subsequent meeting, I think, would be in order. It would be my intention to support such a thing.
That goes back to my previous comment to Ms. Moore about, I think we've got the situation handled, and if we need to take a stronger action, we will.
All right, let's see if we do. If we don't, we'll move it.
I still say that was not my problem. My problem was it's dangerous for a car to be parked there, but that's all right.
Understand, but we're talking about the car that's always there.
Well,
I don't see any
anyone
other
else is
cars
parked
there.
Really, that's the chance,
Yeah.
though.
But if we have a problem, we'll revisit it.
Okay, I appreciate that.
We have a motion to do something about it. We have a second to it. Yes, and we will now vote on all the.
Mayor, just a point of clarification. Did you change your motion to include his recommendation of,
They've got the discretion to put those in.
okay. I'm sorry.
All those in favor of the current motion without amendments, please raise your hand. All those opposed? All right, that's 6-1. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing those concerns to us, we appreciate it.
Brings us to consideration and adoption of the proposed stormwater control ordinance as recommended by the Planning and Zoning Committee.
Mr. Mayor, you ready for the motion?
Yes.
Do we know what 2006 dash which number this should be on the ordinance? Are we up to 4, 5?
I think it might be 7.
7? Like it is 7? Okay. I would move that we adopt ordinance number 2006-7, an ordinance establishing stormwater control in the city of Starkville. As presented to you this evening in front of you.
May I ask Mr. Cox a question? Did engineers and so forth have the opportunity to say view some of those issues, and they did not have strong issues with some of that?
That's correct. And we also had a public hearing, and at this point, we haven't had any additional feedback. The root of the ordinance itself addresses large tracts of land, large commercial subdivisions, and this is the type of problem that we were trying to solve, and I think the ordinance is a good one.
So does that mean you're going to second the motion that I made to adopt it?
It might be a battle to second it, but if I can.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Second.
We have a motion with a second. Do we have any further discussion on this motion? All those in favor of this motion, please raise your hand. Thank you. Consideration of the Bruce burn policy for the city.
Mr. Mayor and Board, let's pick up this discussion about the burning ban and debris burning in the city, where we have left it over the last several meetings. Since that time, we've had occasion to look at a number of considerations relative to the burn ban. And let me just simply say at the outset, but I'm going to end up with a motion doing these things in a certain fashion here, so bear with me. Ultimately, I am proposing tonight that we lift the burn ban that has been placed on the city, restoring it essentially to what it was before this series of complaints that occurred, and that, of course, as you recall, were mainly involved in Huntington Park. And we had, perhaps for the first time in as long as I can remember, a series of malfunctions with regard to the policy of subcontractors burning and the developer thinking there was a burn permit, and another subcontractor burning. Everything seemed to occur at once, but certainly did cause some major inconvenience to the residents of Huntington Park right before a holiday weekend. So ultimately, I'm going to recommend, but I'm going to do it in a certain way, that the burn ban be lifted. Now, in investigating the matter, I also find that the city's officially adopted fire code, adopted by ordinance, contains certain provisions related to burning within the city, some of which could be considered at best inconsistent with the burn policy of the city. My motion, plus, I think that part of the problem has not been a lack of enforcement, Chief, and I'm not saying that. Perhaps the need to have a little bit more stringent enforcement, give somebody a first chance on this type of thing. No, not necessarily. If we make the policy clear, it's up to a developer of a particular area to make sure that his subs that are there know what the situation is. So, let me make a motion in this particular form. I would make a motion that we refer to the city attorney the responsibility by the next meeting of drafting the proper ordinance, amending as necessary and appropriate the ordinance adopting the fire code, substituting as necessary and appropriate those sections of our burn policy for those appropriate sections of the burn references in the fire protection code adopted by ordinance. So we will need to do this by ordinance. One controls the other, actually. And that, as part of this reworking of the ordinance, that the requirement be instituted that when there is an approved burn, that just like a building permit, there will be posted on the property in some visible fashion so residents can see that there has been an officially approved burn posted on the property, an easy sight for residents to see that there has been an official burn permit issued for the particular burn. Also, and Chief, refresh me, I do not have the material in front of me, the present fines, so-called, are of what amount?
It's $500.
Period.
Period.
I would move then that any first offense be, as part of this motion, $500. Second offense, $1,000. And maybe limited to the 1,000. If we can go to 1,500, I'll have to check the statute. I'm not sure city ordinance we can, so I think it's limited to 1,000 at the moment. So second offense and subsequent offenses, $1,000. To make sure that there's no misunderstanding, no first chance, no you get by with this one, no nothing.
I would ask one thing on the second offense. Not only do we fine them, but we take away their burning privileges for 12 months.
Oh, sounds
In other words,
good.
that would stop that contractor or that person. He would lose his privilege for 12 months, and he'd have 12 months to think about it.
Sounds good. Let's add that to it, that we take away upon a second offense. The whole motion is summarized summarizing. Mr. Jackson has a question in the middle of my motion. Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask about, Mr. Perkins, a while back, when he mentioned about warming fires during the winter months.
I was going to get to that, Fire Chief, with those exceptions that he had recommended of warming fires in winter months. Not big bonfires, warming fires in winter months, not warming fires in summer months, or things of that sort, but in winter months. And that until the city attorney presents this ordinance amendment at the next meeting, that the city will revert to its original burn policy in the interim.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me. On the residential burn permit, if you would look at that and the second paragraph and tell me if I'm, Mr. Attorney, if I'm reading this wrong. And that second paragraph, when it starts with opening burning that will be offensive or objectionable because of smoke, odor, etc., and then it says will not be prohibited. Make sure that,
Should be,
Okay.
will be.
I wanted to make sure that when you write this, that is corrected.
And so, Mr. Faber, we're incorporating our existing burn policy with those changes that have been made to toughen, for lack of a better term, enforcement, and to make sure that the public in the area knows that here is a fire for which there has been issued an official burn permit, because the permit, like a building permit, is posted in plain sight on the general area.
Other comments?
Just a question or asking for clarification. So what we're saying is that after we get this, the amended ordinance, in reality, Mr. Coleman's situation where he gets his burn and he's always followed the permit process and does everything appropriately, the only change he's gonna have to make is post the actual permit which he receives from the fire department on his property,
Right.
and he can continue to do what he has done for years with his neighbors. Is that correct?
That it can do.
That's the way I understood it.
Okay.
Chief, one other question. Is there any need to adjust fees for burn permits, or is this pretty well self-sustained?
We're pretty much in line with everybody else. The one thing I would say on the residential burning all themselves is, in small towns, it's very easy for us to get a complaint from a neighbor and we run over and we make them put it out. I mean, that's our policy. If we get several complaints from the adjoining neighbors if they're burning leaves. But on a commercial burn, if the wind changes or humidity changes, it's very hard for us to go out there and put a large pile out. So, you know, it's a little easier with residential burns as far as making them pull it out if it's offensive, but it's a little different on commercial burns.
And on those commercial burns, all those other regulations about size and fans and this type of stuff.
We'll have all those in there.
The exact same ordinance, or exact same procedure policy that we had with those exceptions. And so, Mr. Jackson, this should allow developers to do what they want to, but they're gonna have to be sure they get a burn permit and be sure they follow the regulations, because no free chance in enforcement of the burn policy.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? I think you.
Yes, sir.
heard the second.
Yes, sir.
Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor of the burn policy as stated, motion, please raise your hand. All those opposed? Thank you. Ms. Brule, do you have a report tonight on the Oddfellows Cemetery? By the way, happy birthday.
Oh, well, thank you. It is. Thank you. I have 54 balloons in my office to prove it. You're amazed how much space 54 balloons takes up. Will we say a little louder?
No, the camera got it.
Oh, forget about that sort of thing. All right, moving right along. We have completed 2 of the surveys that were authorized by the board on the Oddfellow Cemetery located on MLK. One of them being the Ag Extension folks at MSU looked at it, and then the Cobb Institute of Archaeology used their gradiometer. And what I need now from the board is their desires for our next step. Now, both of the recommendations that have been made by, or the recommendations that have been made by both entities essentially are to repair the graves that are sunken in, put in fill in areas that are appropriate in order to make the hill, the slope, easier to work with. Your packet includes both the invoice from the Carb Institute of Archaeology, which came in at $976.36, when we were authorized for $5,000, so that came in well under. And then we have their report with their conclusions, and we have the topographic map that they drew relative to that, and their recommendations, and then we have the Mississippi Extension Service recommendations. Basically, fill in those graves, put in the graves that are sunken, lift them, fill in areas so that we can smooth out the hill, perhaps tier it. I just need the next step that the board wants us to take. I have recommended, based on some information from Mr. Young, that we have the CDBG monies that were intended for improving the blighted area of the Henderson Street, or Henderson area, and that would go to this effort if the board's desires to do so, and there's some monies left there. The last count I saw was $127,000 or so in that particular fund, and I don't know if that's actually current. I haven't looked with Debbie again and how that might have been used recently. I know we did some things on Main Street to use those funds, so I don't know what the status is, but I know there's some left to do some of that with. So I just need the board's direction on where we want to go next.
Ms. Self, what does this sound like to you in terms of the recommendation that we proceed with the filling of sunken graves, the smoothing of the terrain, perhaps the recontouring of some of the area to make it look better and be more serviceable, and then of course once all that's done, to proceed with the planting recommendations that the Extension Service made after all of that's done. Does this sound a logical approach to you?
It does. I read all of the recommendation, the work that has been done and the recommendation, and first let me say I appreciate the initiative that you have taken with this. And I like the recommendation. I think that it is the appropriate approach to what is needed to bring the Oddfellow Cemetery up to the standards that it should be. And I would like to make a motion that we follow the recommendations that is set forth by the Mississippi Extension Service
And the Cobb Institute.
and the Cobb Institute, that we follow those recommendations and get it done. I also, in my motion, well, let's do that one, and then I have something else I want to add.
We have a motion and a second. Do we need any further discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Go ahead, Ms. Self.
I do have a question as for the rest of this season, what will we do about the grass? Because if we don't do anything, that's what they're talking about doing, it's gonna be a little while before they get started with that, and the grass is growing.
It will be. I know that the police officers have been very kind to help us keep that in line. And I'm not sure how much more generosity we can get
Chief
from
Lindley,
them.
can we count on some more of this?
Okay, thank you,
I think,
Chief.
at least in the short term, until we can make this, everything it needs to be for us to put a contract on it, a mobile contract like we do on the University Drive Oddfellows, I think we can move along with that.
And for a point, we may be grassless, so to speak, once contouring and filling and
Right.
shaping and smoothing and so forth are done, then we can go to the Extension Service recommendations for planting.
I would also like to open the floor to Mr. Lovely and Mr. Ashford, who have worked so hard and so diligently with my husband when he was working this project. So I would just like to see if they have any questions or anything that we could And I will share this information with you. I will give you a copy of this. You
My
have
name is
some
Earl
extra-
Lovely, and the only concern I have is what you just stated, covered that already. I'd like to have a copy of that.
She's going to get you one.
Thank you. I thank the board for what you've done. There's a lot to be done on that side of town. And we'll be about the business of getting it done. Clean up. The whole 82 order. And that's basically what we're all about. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Which brings us to the acceptance of letters of interest and appointment of applicants to Planning and Zoning Commission to represent Ward 6 and 4. We have one person of interest from Ward 6. Howard, you want to come up? Mr. Lovelace?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, may I have the floor?
Sure.
Mr. Lovelace, good evening. Mr. Mayor, and to my distinguished colleagues, I'm going to offer Mr. Ira C. Lovelace as the next commissioner for Ward 6. I want to just briefly remind the board and the public that Mr. Lovelace made application for this position at the last time. We've advertised for letters of interest, and the only letter we received was from Mr. Ira C. Lovelace, and he's a resident of Ward 6 of Trotter Lane, and I'm glad he's a part of my ward. And with that being said, Mr. Mayor, without any further delay, I offer a motion that Mr. Ira C. Lovelace, a qualified elector of Ward 6, be appointed to the Starkville Planning and Zoning Commission to fill the unexpired term of Mr. Rayfield Evans, who submitted a letter of resignation to the commission dated July 7, 2006, and that Mr. Lovelace' term commences immediately, and his term expires on June 30, 2011.
Second.
We have a motion and a second that Mr. Lovelace be appointed representative of Ward 6. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? You're there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lovelace. Yes, sir.
The next applicant is Mr. Lee Beck, who is interested in Ward 4. Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, we're glad to have our distinguished colleague here who served with us for the last 4 years. Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening, Mayor, Board of Aldermen.
Lee is very familiar with Ward 4. Where are you living now?
801 University Drive.
Okay.
Lee, I just want to thank you for submitting this letter and requesting to fill this position. I'm really glad that you're willing to help us out on that. And I know that you've had some experience actually in site plan approvals. So I'd like to move that we approve or appoint Lee Phillip Beck to fill the unexpired position of Patrick Nordine, representing Ward 4 on the Planning and Zoning Board.
Second, Alderman Perkins, I believe you had researched the
Right, and
term. Would you
right,
put
and
that
according
in?
to the administrative secretary, Ms. Sarah, the term expires on June 30, 2009, because he's filling, the unexpired.
There's a fill-in.
Yes, sir, 2009.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of appointing Mr. Beck to the Planning and Zoning, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Congratulations.
Alderman, thank you very much.
The next item is a discussion of the TVA electric rate decrease. Did you not hear what I said? Decrease. Is Edward here?
Edward,
In that, what, yeah.
he is.
Yeah.
Have a seat, Edward.
Mayor and board, on July 28th, the new TVA board met, and they approved a 4.5% reduction in firm wholesale power rates, along with a fuel cost adjustment mechanism that will allow TVA to automatically adjust rates up and down as fuel and purchase power costs rise and fall. This rate reduction and the fuel cost adjustment mechanism will become effective as of October 1. I've asked Mr. Rick Misso with TVA to come, and if the board has any questions that I can't answer, I'm sure he can. But this is a
good thing for the valley, it's good for Starkville. And, we haven't gotten any of the numbers yet, so we really don't know exactly how it's gonna play out as far as residential or commercial or industrial rates. But, the 4.5 would be a good reduction. With this fuel cost adjustment mechanism in place, this will be done on a quarterly basis, come effective October 1, and then first quarter, they'll look at their fuel cost and make an adjustment either up or down based on what those fuel costs are. And Mr. Nisso might be able to explain a bit more about that. Pretty much all of the large power distributors, such as Mississippi Power, Energy, Southern Company, Alabama Power, they do this and have been practicing this for quite a number of years.
Floor is open for discussion, but,
Ed and perhaps Rick, what does this mean for our customers? The first question is that 4.5% TVA decrease. Is that something that you'd be recommending that we pass along to our customers? And then how do we expect to work with those rate adjustments? Would you be recommending that we be adjusting our rates on a much more frequent basis? For example, if these purchase power things happen on a quarterly basis, what are other communities doing? What are y'all's recommendations?
And to go with that, 4.5% is a wholesale rate reduction.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's pretty much across the board, across all classes of customers. But of course, when you look at the different makeup of your system, but because it is just applied to the wholesale rate, the end user will see a lesser amount because the wholesale rate probably makes up around 80% or so of the cost. It will be something less than that. But we will work with Ed to try to balance those rates out, bring you some numbers soon to consider.
And as the fuel cost adjustment, what's happening there is as the price of fuel supplies go up, of course, they'll ask for a quarterly addition to the rate.
Right, and we hope this will help minimize the peaks and valleys that we've seen over the last year or two. With what happened last fall with Katrina and things like that, it really put a lot of pressure on us with cash flow and things like that. I think this will help the ratepayers see a lesser increase on a quarterly basis.
And you said the effective date of the TVA decrease is October 1.
October 1st, yes.
So I assume prior to that time, Ed, that you will be back with us in sufficient time to adjust the mechanism of bills and so forth, and also time for us to consider not at the last minute the effect of the 4.5% wholesale rate on residential and commercial customers.
anyone else got comments? Thank you, gentlemen. It's always good news to hear the rate decrease. This brings us up to the discussion of the annual cost of health and dental insurance for the city. Man, I think you and Sumner were wanting this to be kind of discussed in an open meeting, were you not?
I guess from a little bit of background, several months ago, we were presented with a 22% healthcare cost increase. And at that time, the board acted and we kept the rates for our employees to be the same. And then at a subsequent meeting, we needed to clarify our position because there was some confusion about how that might affect our families of our employees and possibly also retirees. And based on some additional analysis, it looked like we might need to re-clarify our position again, and hopefully for the final time. And just kind of go through the facts that were put together for us. In the 2005-2006 fiscal year, we had an insurance cost to the city of $880,000. And this, I'll just stick with the health care at the moment and not touch on dental unless we want to. This is a cost to the city for providing health care for our employees. With that 22% increase, and what we approved was a little over $1 million annual cost to the city. Where there's come some type of confusion, because of course this board spoke very clearly about wanting to, or being concerned about our working families and our lowest paid employees, is we extended the same rates to our employees, even though we absorbed a 22% increase. That, we are talking in terms of, this was $122,000 or so as an increase. Well, the employee manual reflects that while we do cover the cost fully of our employees, families, and I quote, if a family or extra coverage is desired, the employee is responsible for those premiums. And in essence, we're able to allow them to get in on our group insurance rate, and they're able to provide insurance to their families at a much lower cost than they would on the open market. But we, as taxpayers, and we, the city, wouldn't be paying for their family coverage. And so in the last meeting, and the last time this was discussed, there are 22 employees that this affects. And when we made an as-is decision, it was left up, in a sense, to a certain amount of confusion. And so the way it stands right now is we're contributing about $28,000 towards family coverage that would not be in concert with our own employee manual. So it seems like at this point, we just need to clarify how we're going to move forward. Either we're going to provide a portion of the family coverage, or if indeed we're going to stick with our 100% coverage to our employees and have the families pay for the insurance at our discounted rate. Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
I was the maker of the motion for the insurance to remain as is or as it was at that time, meaning that we, the city, would pay whatever difference it was so that the employees could keep the same coverage that they had, the same deductible, the same co-pay. The intent of my motion, and if I erred or if it has been misunderstood, and I think it has very clearly been misunderstood, or even if I erred in my motion, I'm woman enough to come back and say, okay, I erred, so let's do this again. The intent of my motion was to cover the employee, not their family. The intent of my motion was not that we were going to pick up whatever additional cost it would be for an employee's family. It was for the employee only.
And so at this point, based on the last motion that was taken in the direction given by the board, it didn't meet with your intent, and I think what we'll find here, the entire board's intent, so it probably makes sense for us to have a motion
To really clarify that.
To clarify.
Like what you said.
So that's when I said, if we erred because of my motion, then let's set the record straight, because that was the intent of my motion. And if I need to make it again and make sure that we understand that the city will pay the additional cost for the employees' insurance, that they may have the same coverage that the previous year, what was that, 2005? 2006 fiscal year.
Employee only.
Employee
Yeah.
only, not the family. We are not going to absorb, it was not my intention for us to absorb the cost for the family, just for the employee.
All right, so you're making that in the form of a motion.
Yes, I am.
Do all of you understand in regard to what the motion is?
And yes, just to say, we had a very confusing discussion of all that and a lot of misunderstanding on everybody's part, everywhere, of the actual intent of the motion. So, Ms. Self is correct, it's time to correct it.
And you're going to second her motion then?
Has it not been seconded?
No.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion with a second that the employees' insurance rates will stay the same as they were prior to the increase, not the spouses or the family.
Correct. That is the intent of my motion.
Okay, all those in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
This brings us down to approval of contribution to the GTPDD agency. That's a mouthful. For the aging.
Mayor and Board, what this item is at the last, when we approved our budget last year in September, we knew of this request, the final documentation and request wasn't finalized at that time. The Golden Triangle Planning and Development Area Agency on Aging was going to provide a second bus for the community. We put money in a contingency fund. We now have that documentation, and it would be appropriate for us to allow and approve this expenditure so we can go ahead and transfer that to the GTPDD AAA, I think, in the amount of $32,500, and I do so in the form of a motion.
Do we have a second to that motion? We have a motion with a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Mayor, what's the motion?
Motion is that we approve the contribution to the,
Okay, all right.
all right. All those nay? Against? Brings us down to departmental business. First item on that.
Mayor, excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
before we move any further, can we get a clarification for our purposes? We have given refunds back to the employees. We need to know, is our go-forward position from here, or are y'all wanting us to go back and recapture what we've then refunded based on the actions
Well,
of
this
the
is
previous?
actually a new motion.
Okay, so we aren't going to go back, we're going to leave it as is, and we will move forward with the
Leave
health
it as
care.
is, we'll go forward. Yeah.
Okay,
From this point on.
okay, just wanted to be sure we're clear on it. Thank you.
Brings us to the item of the airport. Mr. Harden. Request for authorization for the project number 3-28-0068-010-2000-2005. Payment number 7, is that not correct?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor and Board. This, in essence, with the exception of just a few $1,000s, brings the current year's project to completion. And as a report, I can tell you tonight that we've had favorable project, and we should have somewhere in the range of $50,000 to $75,000 of project funding remaining after all is said and done. And we will not close this project out until we've attempted to get a change in scope that will allow us to beneficially use those monies out at the airport. Those monies are 97% grant. But this pay request number 7 releases most all of the contractor's retainage and constitutes about a 99-point-something% completion of the 05 project.
Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor and Board, I would move approval of the airport improvement program project number 3-28-0068-010-2005, pay request number 7 from Ellis Construction Company in the amount of $102,415.49.
Second.
We have a motion with a second. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you, sir. Office of City Clerk.
Just one bit of information should come to the table. I often get these, and it's no complaint here, but I often get these claim docket, and I don't think I can look through this as an attorney or elected official. I just see the amounts and the persons that they're being written to, and I rely upon you heavily at each meeting just to give us your recommendations you've been doing, because I just want to make sure as I look through it, and sometimes they're very lengthy, and sometimes I'm aware of
contributions that are being made. So I'm gonna trust your judgment as to meeting the legal requirements, because I want to push you there with it every day. I want to make sure that it meets the requirements, but I know we make expenditures probably for the matter dealing with the recent municipal, maybe, expenditures, whether it's for convention expense or whatever, or enrollment. But just, I just want you to make sure that you make it clear to us that all of the expenditures are legal and according to state law each time you come down here from now on.
Well, and that is, I do go through the claims docket to make sure that the policy and procedures is being complied with. And that's when I make my recommendation that, we do approve the claims docket. And I do so here for this case.
Okay, so to meet all legal requirements.
First item on your agenda is the approval of the claims docket as of July 28th, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mayor, I motion approval of the July 28, 2006 claims docket.
Second.
Do we have a second?
I did.
I didn't hear you, excuse me. Well, motion with a second, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Nay.
The second item is report on expenditures receipts.
And that's included in your package, the financial report for the month of June. And
I
there's
would
nothing-
move that the financial reports be accepted as transmitted.
Well, I was going to say, there's really nothing.
To approve,
except to-
right.
Right.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Just to transmit.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Can you now give us an update on the tax sale, please?
Yeah, well, Alderman Cox called with a concern on the tax parcels that are maturing at the end of August. We have approximately 142 parcels that have not been redeemed. This, and this number is slightly higher, but not significantly higher than previous years. For some landowners, this is just the way they do business, and sometimes they'll come in at the very last minute to redeem. And we have several parcels to redeem.
Fairly routine.
Fairly routine for some of our landowners. In his concern, one of his concerns was the change in tax paying venue taken to the county, and that may have affected a handful of our taxpayers. But we have sent certified letters out to both the landowner and lien holders if you have them. And just as a precaution, with the permission from the CAO, we'll see if we can utilize the services of Vicki Lowry to make telephone calls to see if we can get those, some of those contacted, along with the mayor has an intern in the office there that we can use his services also. I did speak with Al Quinn to see if we can get these put on the website and see if we could, and we can update them periodically, just to let the landowners, look on the list if they, have concerns about being on the list. They can go on the website and see if they're on there. And if they have questions, they can call and see if they're on.
Ms. Outlaw, I know we've published this in the newspaper a couple times, and I appreciate you taking the extra step to get that on the website as well, so that people can follow along. And I love the proactive step of being able to go out and contact some of these people, because I have heard from people who, they were involved in transactions going back a couple of years ago, and And because I guess in the past, they would have come to the city clerk's office and would have heard you haven't paid, or the previous landowner hadn't paid for those taxes and you're responsible for them. And with this transfer, it's just a new year and we don't want anyone to be surprised through this, so I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, ma'am. Building Codes and Planning Department, we have asked for a request to approve and hire Donald Sullivan as a field code compliance officer at grade A, step 4, for $24,080.84. Boyd, you want to put some light on that?
Yes, sir, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. Donald Sullivan was one of 9 people that applied for the position. There was only 2 people that met the minimum qualifications. Donald had far superior qualifications than the other person. I interviewed him and Don Lyles interviewed him, and we introduced him to the CAO. And his wife is from Starkville. She's already moved back here. He's ready to go to work. If we notify him, you'll have to give a 2-week notice. He's got excellent recommendations. Check it out. And the good thing is he won't have to have a lot of training, I don't think. But he's also a qualified, or he's been to the police academy, certified police.
Anybody got questions?
The only training I'd like the new Don to get is from the old Don. Don has a unique carrot and stick approach, and he's been incredibly effective. So, Mayor, I guess you're still in charge of the city planning's office. If you would make sure that Don and Don work closer together before the original Don leaves.
I think that's the intent, is it not?
Yes, but it's growing real close.
Well, since it's moving close, I'd move approval of hiring Donald Sullivan as the field code compliance officer, grade 8, step 4, for a salary of $24,080.84 with the appropriate probationary period.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Thank you, sir. The next item in the building department request for a public hearing to declare property at 609 McKee Street a public nuisance in accordance with Municipal Code 17-37.
I think each one of you has in your packet, property down here at 609 McKee Street, and this is not the first time that we've dealt with this person. I understand the previous people have dealt with him for the last 6 or 7 years. And this is the second time that we have sent him a notice to get his property cleaned up. He hasn't responded either time. The last time, me and Assistant Chief Outlaw delivered him a hand letter requesting to get the property cleaned up, and he still hasn't responded. So whatever the board needs to do to get his property cleaned up, then I think it needs to be cleaned up.
How much notification are we supposed to give to the individual on the public hearing under our current ordinance?
It says in our letter that the public hearing has been set, you'll be notified in writing the time and the place of the hearing.
We have to.
This is,
So, I'm saying if we set the hearing for our next board meeting, would that be
We're in
okay?
compliance, that's where we set it up so that we could do it at the next board meeting. We're gonna personally serve them. We just need, based on our policies and procedures in the past, we need to come to board and request. That's all we need.
All right. That's what I'm saying.
Would you describe what happens once this board would declare this a public nuisance? What can we do at that point?
At that point, then we can use city services to clean the property up and charge it back to the individual. And if he doesn't pay, then we can put a lien on his property to recover those monies, so that he can never sell that property until the city repaid those monies. And that's pursuant to state statute 2119.
I know this property, the ordinance itself talks about grass over 12 inches. The grass there is 8 feet. It's clearly abandoned. Do we have any other recourse at this point other than just mowing the grass and cleaning it up because it affects the property values? It's unsafe. the doors are wide open, it's unsafe for kids.
Well, I mean, we're just dealing with the issue of the public nuisance and the grass today, if you want to. There's another procedure where we can declare the property and basically knock the house down. If we wanted to, but that wasn't presented. This is all that was presented.
This has been going on for years, it's not like this just happened.
But we
There's any
have
case for it.
We have to proceed to do just this now because we haven't done the proper notification of state statute for the condemnation procedure.
Okay.
So if you want to go that way, we have to take some other steps.
Well, let's set, I'll make a motion to set a public hearing for 5:30, August 15th, 2006, here in this boardroom. And that the appropriate notification be given to the individual declared 609 McKee Street a public nuisance.
Second.
Have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. We'll take a quick break here at this particular segment of the agenda, and we'll return and we'll get back on with the electric department.
The passage of time. We have shared your joy at the birth of your children, and proudly we have watched them grow. We've taken care of your health care needs during the good times and the not so good. Your parents and grandparents have depended upon us. Together we have shared the struggles and the wonders of life. At Oktibbeha County Hospital, we are celebrating 30 years of being your lifelong choice in health care.
Mayor and Board, our last budget, FY06, we talked with the budget committee about taking over the maintenance and actually the ownership of the city's traffic lights. And at this time, I would request that this be approved by the board. This is should be the only thing would be a county change from the city's books to our books. So I believe this will help the city quite a bit.
Do we have a motion that we transfer the lights?
I would move we transfer ownership, so to speak, for accounting purposes of the street lights from the books of the city to the books of the Starkville Electric Department.
Traffic city.
Traffic.
We thought of legal responsibility.
Did I say lights?
Yeah.
Signals, I'm sorry.
Do we have a second to the motion?
Mayor, of course, it's understood that we would continue to pay the monthly electric bills and retain legal responsibility if we can transfer that.
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Second item.
Mayor and Board, I've been looking at property down for our proposed new office site at 182 and Lafayette Street. And I really been asking for guidance from the board is this their wishes for us to pursue trying to purchase the property, whatever guidance the board provide at this time. I have talked with both landowners, and we have secured a appraisal of both properties at this time. And I need to know as to how the board wishes me to go.
And Mr. Hathaway, you're looking for ratification from this board on your location that you selected, is that? You know, we heard from Mr. Ashford earlier about Old 82 and needs to renovate that area. This would provide a double benefit. Not only would we have more space for the service aspects of Starkville Electric, but we also will start to improve an area that dramatically and drastically needs it. So I'm certainly comfortable with the location.
Not to mention, we would eliminate that dangerous curve people have to get onto just to pay their electric bill.
Eliminate the long lines that
I meant there was,
turn over there.
people wouldn't have to try to get in there.
so that you make that in form of a motion that we,
If there is any other, then I'd move that we provide authorization to proceed with the land acquisition process for the construction of the new Starkville Electric office building.
Ms. F., did you want to say something? Okay. We have a motion and a second that we pursue the purchase of the properties on the corner of Lafayette Street and 182 for the purpose of building a new electric building. And I assume that you would give appraisals for this and that you would come back and give us a report in regard to cost, environmental issues, and the archaeological issues. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Passes. Your next item.
I would also request the board authorization to contact an architect to move forward with developing a site feasibility study as to how the building should be built, parking lots, et cetera, et cetera. And I would also request that this architect be allowed to do the construction drawings and the design of the proposed building. And what I would recommend to the board is that to include the architect we had just got through using, which is Prior Moral construction of our warehouse. I would request the board's approval to allow me to seek proposals from all local architects and recommendation back to the board.
I'm sorry, to say that last part again, you're requesting that we open up the process for receipt of proposals from any interested architect.
Any interested local architects.
Well, architects, period. Yeah.
Right.
For
Design and do the design and construction drawings for the project, and to also assist in a site feasibility study on the property.
okay, proposals to be received for transmittal to the board here by the first meeting in September.
Yes, sir.
That should be plenty of time. And I would make that motion that the city receive proposals from any interested architects on the site feasibility, construction site drawings, design, so forth, for the electric department facility. By September. What is that date?
Why don't we make it the middle of the month of September, because this is really not much of a time for someone to really kind of put things together, but they should be able to in a 5-week or 6-week.
That doesn't bother the recess meeting of September then.
Okay. Did everybody get that we would set the time frame for a recess meeting in September? In which we would accept proposals?
An RFP advertisement for
Receive.
Right.
middle of September. I'll second.
Yes, we have a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
Finally, Mayor and Board, I would request authorization to Shane Grantham to attend a two-day course in Nashville, Tennessee on August 17th and 18th.
I would move that Shane Grantham be authorized to attend a two-day course on what?
It's supervisor, customer, employee supervision, step 2 or something like this.
In Nashville for August 17th, 18th, and that he be advanced any necessary travel for this out-of-state trip.
Second.
We have a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. I would like to go back to the building department for one moment, that we have something that was left off that needs to be dealt with tonight. And that is a renewal request, or request renewal of the annual contract with Hudolph Gwynn for inspection and training services for the building codes and planning department for the year 2006, 2007. This is the same contract that he had previously, that even started under Mayor Rutledge.
Mayor, I'd recommend that we hold consideration of this until the discussion in executive session.
Personnel, all right, that'll be fine. We'll move on to the fire department.
Mayor, we have one item. We just need permission to travel to, that should be Appleton, Wisconsin, to make the final inspection on our ladder truck. We'll spend 3 days, actually 1 day flying, and then we'll make the final inspection, accept the truck, and it'll be delivered shortly after that.
Do we have a motion?
Move approval, Mr. Mayor.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Brings us down to public service.
Mr. Mayor, if my motion is being ordered at this time. Mr. Mayor, I move that the matters of, one, the request of authorization to raise water and sewer rates, and the matter of the request of authorization to increase the required amount for the water and sewer deposits to be referred to the Committee on Streets, Drainage, and Ditches, and that the committee make a report back to this full board for its review and consideration at its first meeting in September, which is September 5, 2006.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I would like to encourage that part of the problem with the increase in the amount for water and sewage deposits is the city's being stuck with a lot of students who just packing up and not paying the final bill.
Well, we'll certainly give all that due consideration.
All right. We have a motion and a second that this be referred to committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The next item in public service, who's handling public service? Are you handling that tonight, Lynn?
Yes, sir. The request is for Al Quinn and Chad Cheatham to travel to San Antonio to attend a 5-day course on art and GIS training. And Mr. Dillon's provided you with the written material. We have no one who is capable of running the software, and when we have the software, he is represented to me that he is in dire need for that in order to run more efficiently. He also has indicated that they've got some training coming up September 1 that there's no need in them having if these folks don't have this coursework. So I think with the software in place that was bought by the engineering department, I believe a little over a year ago, we've not been able to yet utilize it at all. I started to say to its fullest extent, but at all. So this training is needed. Al needs to go because he's got to be the one to put the software in and then knows how to service it. And then, of course, Chad's the one who would then be operating it. So that's Mr. Devlin's request in this matter.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Passes. Next item, please.
Next item is fill a vacant crew leader position 2 in the landscape division, grade 5, step 4, salary of $18,092.29.
How many employees do we have in landscape?
Mr. Vice Mayor?
No, that's a question. That's a question.
I understand it's a question, and off the top of my head, I don't have that answer.
It's not very many.
Okay, the point I'm making is, it seems, and I know it's a vacant position.
Yes.
But it seems like we need somebody, working, supposed to recruit, we have a lot of area in the city that needs to be taken care of. And so hopefully if we,
once we approve this motion, let's make sure all this work is got to work. There's a lot of things we don't have right away need to be cleared. We need to keep this city looking clean. We don't have that many as it is, so this thing's still crew leader. We don't need we need somebody who will get down and get to work.
What he would like is a working crew leader.
I understand that.
That's right.
And I will convey that message to Mr. Devlin as the department head.
Thank you.
So do we have a motion that we approve the hiring of this person?
Mayor, I move that we approve to fill the vacant crew position in the landscape division, grade 5, step 4, pay rate, a salary of $18,092.29.
We're simply accepting applications.
Right, advertising, yes.
Right.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of the motion and the second, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now, we'll go into a closed session to discuss going into an executive session.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? This guy.